It's time for episode number 2 of the Drive On podcast, and with me is, well, I'm proud to call this guy a friend because we've gotten to know each other over the last few years, but it's great to have Jason Barry with me today. Hey, Jason, how are you?
Great. It's nice to be here.
That's good. Welcome to the bunker.
Thank you. That's cool. I like it.
Been an interesting year, the year of 2020.
It sure has, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But you've been busy.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. Well, you know that we moved the studio here this year.
Yep.
And so I've been here for a full year now.
Nice.
My first session was on June 29th last year for the Jason Price stuff. And then we followed up with a few more artists like Laurie LeBlanc. And we've had artists from all over the world, since, like Tennille Arts, and people like that.
Yeah.
So, it's been going really well.
Good.
Yeah, it's busy every day. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's all you can hope for, especially now with all this travel restriction and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess you're the perfect example of how, if you are able to adapt to changing circumstances and still stay busy, then, you're in the right area.
Yeah. And I think, like the world has become a little smaller with internet and all that, if you have good internet. We won't go there. But yeah, it really doesn't matter where you are at the time, as long as you can get, a little correspondence going and get the workflow going back and forth in a nice, efficient way, then it's a piece of cake. And I've been working with the guys from Dean Brody's band back and forth. We kind of discussed how I wanted them to set up their stuff at home, and they were phoning in saying, hey, I got this, what worked the best, and kind of like what we're doing here. We're trying out microphones,
sure.
You're doing all this stuff. And so we got a really smooth setup. So we're sending files back and forth. I just prep everything ahead of time, write the charts, and make sure everything's spelt out for them. So all they have to do is execute, and then they send it back. And it's been going great. So we've tracked, I think, since the travel restriction, the C word, the COVID.
Yeah.
I think I bet you I've tracked about 15 to 16 songs at least.
Nice.
That way remotely. Yeah. So it's not slowing anything down, which is nice. Now seems a little more like not as personal, which is kind of a downer, because I kind of built this place for exactly that experience, so people could come and stay and enjoy the stuff and enjoy this area. But for now, that's not the case. It's just kind of another bunker.
Yeah,
but it's a big one.
It sure is. And we'll talk about everything that you've been doing there over the last 12 months. But just in case somebody's tuning into this, and has no idea who Jason Barry is, first of all, how dare you?
Yeah.
But let's go back. The story begins in Derby Junction, New Brunswick.
It sure does, yeah. Well, I grew up here, obviously, and I stayed here for the first 18 years of my life, and graduated here at Miramichi Valley, and just like a lot of us did, or some, and got the travel bug pretty much right away. So I ended up meeting this band from Ontario at a club that used to be here. And it was one of those Saturday matinee type of things, and they invited me to go up and play. And so I went, okay, I'll go up and play with you. And then they asked me to be in the band. And at the time, I was going to go to electronics engineering in college.
Okay.
And I got accepted, and I had all my books, and they said, do you want to go on the road? And I went, yeah. So I hopped on a train and went to Sioux Lookout, Ontario, and played a 6-nighter. And probably one of the roughest bars in Canada, I think. Yeah. That was an eye-opener.
I bet.
And then we made our way to Kitchener, where the band was from, Waterloo, which I spent the last 30 years living there, and ended up kind of right away out of that band working with a guy named Jamie Warren, who was a popular singer at the time, and started writing songs with and for him. And then I got another gig as a guitar player with a guy named Charlie Major, who's pretty popular around here.
Yeah.
So when that happened, my mom and dad were like, yes, that was great. Yeah. And then, and as you know, it just kind of over the last 25 years of that, it's just been artist after artist. I've been lucky to work with like Charlie, Jason McCoy, Aaron Lyons. I work with Dean Brody now, and Dallas Smith I've shared the stage with, and people like that. There's so many I know I'm going to forget, but been fortunate,
No, very nice.
Play guitar, and as you know, I'm in the Hall of Honor. I can't win the award anymore.
See, the Canadian Country Music Association, you've been nominated several times for Guitar Player of the Year.
Yeah.
You won it 5 times.
Yeah.
And then once you won your 5th time,
that's it. You're out. We can't get nominated or win that anymore. So there's 2 of us.
So because of that, now you're in the Hall of Honor.
Right.
You and
Wendell Ferguson.
Okay.
Who I'm working on a record with him in Miramichi as we speak.
Nice.
Remotely, obviously.
Yeah.
We started the record in Ontario when the studio was there, and then he took a little break, and then he started working on his overdubs and sending them to me, and now we're finishing that. Yeah, so I've known Wendell, that was the guy I was watching when I first moved in that area, and then just wanted to be more like him and follow his career, and it worked out. Just knock on wood, it just seemed like everything would line up at the right time, and I got all the right breaks at the right time, and then of course you got to follow up. Like if you get the break, then you got to be able to prove it and stay there.
Yeah.
And so I've been fortunate enough to stay there too. So
very
it's
nice.
good.
Yeah, very nice. It's that's
there's a lot of career to just cram into it.
Exactly.
And we've had some nice conversations.
Yeah.
You've been nice enough to do interviews with, radio stuff, and we had a pretty big episode there.
Yeah.
we got into detail with it.
Yeah, that was, and I think that just came up in my Facebook memories here not long ago. That was probably 5, maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And but that was nice, and it was so cool to be able to do that the first time and get to know about all the folks that you've worked with and how what it took you to get to basically where you are today. It was very, very interesting. And
it's a crazy path,
What was it that your father always said?
About
it's something about it's a strange world or a crazy.
Oh yeah, it's a small world, but I wouldn't want to paint it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. I was thinking.
He had a lot of colorful ones that I probably shouldn't say.
I was thinking of that the other day, and I was like, "What was that he said?" But yeah, that's pretty. Yeah. We'll talk about his other sayings maybe when we're done.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. It's to see where everything that all the people that you've worked with is just the names. When you started rhyming off the names, it's like, oh, that was like country radio in the 90s or CMT videos in the 90s. Like all those great.
They were going to do when CMT was running strong. I was in so many videos that they were actually going to do a show. You remember the Where's Waldo?
Yeah.
They were going to do a little show called Where's Woody?
Okay.
And it was a friend of mine who was head of the network at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I really don't want you to do that. But they would hide me in videos at the end. Like I was in a Jason McCoy video, and it kind of like pans the whole band. As soon as it gets to me, it goes like skip.
Yeah.
Just because I was in so many videos at the time. It was like well over 15 videos all running. Like you couldn't watch 10 minutes of CMT. And my ugly mug was there somewhere. So it was crazy. Because I was working at the time when the CMT was on, the artists were like Jamie Warren and Beb Mahood and John Landry and, right up to Aaron Lyons and Jason McCoy and Charlie Major.
Yeah.
So I was working with all those guys, And,
neat.
Yeah. So I was playing on the records and then playing live with them. And then, of course, when a video shoot would come up, it's like, hey, you want to be in the video? It's like, yeah.
Tell the story about you were touring with Charlie.
Yeah.
And you got asked to be in a video.
Right.
But you couldn't.
That's right. Yeah. So, the Charlie stories are pretty fun. I'll preface it with the first, I want to share the story about the first time I ever got on a tour bus with Charlie.
That's my favorite story ever.
It's pretty crazy. So fresh out of New Brunswick, and I was in Ontario maybe 6-7 months. So I was still pretty fluent with my Miramichi sayings and stuff. So I hopped on the tour bus, and it was like big eyes, and everybody else is just sitting there like, oh, here comes the new guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And Charlie's sitting at the table, and there's like a chair here and another chair on the other side, almost like this. And he's sitting here working on his guitar, and I just he had his like tuning pegs, not tuning pegs, the little things that go in the back of the guitar to hold the strings in place. And they were on the chair beside him. So I just grabbed them and I put them up on the table and I sat right beside Charlie and go, whoa, this is great. Eh? This is amazing. And he looked at me like a cow looks out a new fence. He was just like, he said, I've had this guitar since 68 or whatever. And he said, and those have always been in the same holes the entire time. I've never switched them. And you walk in the bus and your first 5 minutes and you pick them up and mess them all up. So that was a rough start, but he forgave me for that, and it went on for many years to the point where I was producing his records. You know, I'm still producing his records to this day.
That was pretty cool.
But then, so we did a video called "Do It for the Money" in Nashville.
Yeah.
Remember, I do it. Anyway, so we're all doing that video shoot, and the video producer at the time was Steve Goldman, who passed away a couple of years ago, actually, and he asked me if I was going to be around, because I had really long hair at the time and I was young, and he's like, we're looking for a long hair guy to play dobro in this girl Shania's video. Can you do it? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. And she was just starting to hit at that point, Shania Twain.
Yeah.
And so went back to the hotel, and then the management and stuff for Charlie was like, well, no, your work visa runs out tomorrow. You need to get on a plane and head back to Canada.
Oh, jumping.
So I had to bail on the video, but I was that close to being in, and that was, am I dreaming or stupid? That one. So that I would have been in that video.
Wow.
That's a bummer.
Well, you know what? It's considering, you know, all the success and all the opportunities that you've had, you're going to have some that just not going to fall through.
Yeah, I missed a couple over the years.
That was I remember those stories from when we first talked years ago there, and those are two of my favorites.
Yeah, that was fun. Those are fun times.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. We'll go back for a second, and just this past weekend when we're recording this, it was the third annual Remembering Amy fundraiser in Blackville. Amy Jardine, and it's been 3 years since he passed. A gentleman that would help out many folks in the community through jamborees, hootenannies, things like that. If somebody was in need, he would help out.
Yeah.
And he kind of got you on stage at an early age.
He did, yeah. And I went to the last two of those. His wife Helen is a friend of ours, and she's beautiful. You know, she's a wonderful woman. So any way we can help out, we will. Yeah. And so when I was probably about 13, I'm figuring somewhere in there, and I went to a place called the Derby Rec Center, which is gone now. Yeah. But Amy and those guys were playing, and it was like a hootenanny kind of thing that they were doing. And of course, they're inviting singers up. So I just went up as a singer and a guitar player and sang a tune with the guys. And then when I was up there, Amy said, just stay. You know, that's what he's like, encouraging. Like, stay and play along, you know.
Yeah.
Don't get too loud, but play along. And so I did. And then I ended up, you know, befriending those guys, and, you know, like Shirley Duffy and Todd Jardine, all these guys at the time were all, excuse me, we played together for years after that. Like, so I stayed in that band right until I left. So we played all those hootenannies at the Blackville Fire Hall to raise money for the Jaws of Life.
Yeah.
That was all Amy. And, you know, anytime anybody would have something bad would happen or a tragedy of some sort, the band was there to help try to raise money or support any way we could. So we did a lot of that, and it was amazing. And of course, Amy was the guy. He'd pick up the phone and call us all and go, come on, boys, we're going to be there on Saturday. Doesn't pay, but we're going to make some money. We're going to help some people.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. You know, we're lucky to be part of that.
I guess it's been about 3 years since he passed, or maybe 4 years.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
4 years, yes. Because about 4 years ago, I helped out at the racetrack over here. They had a street stock race, which is very similar to what Amy drove in. He raced back in the 80s at the Douglastown track. And so it was actually our friend Steve Curtis that came up with the idea. Let's do it in Amy's memory.
Oh, nice.
And so it was a great turnout. 25 cars from all over Atlantic Canada showed up. Probably the largest field of cars, at least on this track, in many years.
Wow. And
it was well attended, and so it was, and Amy's family was there at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was nice. It was nice to be able to, remember Amy that way as well.
Yeah. I feel like I was part of that family. They're so great. Like Shirley's family and Amy's family, they just take you and keep you. You know, they're just like, you're part of it.
Yeah.
And they're so great. So we went to the to the one this weekend for Amy with Helen, and they raised like $2,800, and there was like 150 people there.
Nice.
My in-laws are here now from Ontario. They moved here, and they were shocked. They were just like, they raised that much money? I said, yeah, this is what it's like here. We're a community, and we really support each other, you know.
For sure.
And, you know, like we talked about earlier, you know, if you need a hand or if you need a vote, our town just jumps on and just helps it. Yeah, you know, it's amazing.
So we talked about it that you moved back here about a year ago.
Yeah.
And just what you're saying about, you know, the community, and is that part of the reason why you wanted to come back?
That's a big part of it. You know, for my children, you know, I know it's a different town than it was when I was a kid, obviously, but I mean, fundamentally it's the same. Like the generation of the people before us brought up those children. So those guys and gals have the same ethic, you know, for the most part. Yep. No matter what community you go to, you're going to have difficulty. And it's like that all over the world. It's just very common. And it's funny. My mom has a great saying, because I remember when I first came back, I was like, gosh, I don't know, Mom, there's some crazy people in town there. And she goes, yeah. And she goes, but at least you know who they are. And she's right. Like when I was living in the big city, you could be next door neighbor to somebody you don't know, and they could have been a terrible person, and you never would have known. Yeah. And she was right. But I think it's good. It's been really good for the kids, because it's not just, it's a lot of things, you know, it's not just simply, you can just go get it whenever you want. Yeah. You know, the world isn't like that. It just doesn't come to you like that. Yeah. Like I'm not trying to diss anybody or anybody's parenting ethic or whatever, but it's, life isn't like that. You just don't, can I have that? Okay. That's not how it works. No. And, you know, even with silly little things like animals, you got to pay attention when you're in the woods here. Yeah. You do. Yeah. And anywhere else, you know, like in a place like downtown Toronto, if you're in the park, you don't have to worry about a bear. Yeah, exactly. Right. But you should here. So you should, that awareness, that just one with nature and your community. Like, we know all of our neighbors. We know, we know our friends that we've had forever, and they're still, it's just like the day I left. Some of the people I've met up again, it's like, oh, how are you? And it's great. And it's like no time has passed. We're just right back where we started. And good friendships are like that. Yeah, for sure. They just kind of carry on from the second you get back. Yeah. So, and I want my kids to have that. Selfishly, you know, I thought, well, I'm going to bring them back. And my wife loved it here too, Melissa. And this is a great area for her instrument, even. Like, she's a fiddle player. Right. And so there's lots of wonderful music in this part of the world that she likes to expose herself to. She's kind of listening to all this. Even our local stuff is pretty great, you know? Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, so that was sort of part of it, to bring the kids back and to bring our family back together a little bit tighter. Because when you're in those environments, like when we were in Ontario, we had you know, a nice big house, all that stuff and stuff. Yeah. And you worked hard for it. You worked 12, 13 hours a day for it. Yeah, exactly. And one day you wake up and the kids are gone. Yeah. And you have all that stuff still, and you did great. Everybody's happy to know you because you're doing all right. But that's not how I want to leave things. I want to be a great dad now while I can be, you know.
And, you know, it seems to, you know, everything seems like that is working, you know, because you've got a great daughter, you got a great son. Yeah. And,
John O'Shea.
there was a story, well, I'll tell you the story, and I think you already know it anyway, but one day Tammy and I were at a local store here and waiting in the line to go through the checkout, and it's just like, you get that feeling like somebody's watching you. I'm kind of looking around, and all of a sudden I just look down, and there's your daughter. Big smile, and but that was.
And they don't call you John.
No,
it's John O'Shea. That's it. It's so funny.
Well, that's a lot better than what some people call me. So that's good.
Yeah, Wednesday night guy.
Oh, yes.
Most hated man in the Mirror Machine.
Oh, when it comes to bingo night.
Oh, that's funny.
But I'm just thankful that I don't do it all the time.
Oh yeah.
It's anyway.
I think everybody likes you here.
You know, Dad always said, you know, treat others the way you like to be treated yourself.
Yeah, I live by that.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. And And something the other day I saw somebody sharing on social media was a saying that I've reached the age that, if you're convincing me that 1 + 1 = 5, yep, you're right. Mm-hmm. It's like Dr. Phil said, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Yeah, that's it.
And I want to be happy.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid confrontation and things
Yeah.
like that. It's,
Confrontation's easy to find.
Yeah.
And it's easy to create.
Exactly.
But, being pleasant and being good to other people is just as easy. I think it's easier.
And when you avoid that confrontation, you just feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to be a positive person.
Absolutely.
And surround yourself with positive people, and success will come too,
Exactly.
I think.
Yeah.
Like if you surround yourself by someone who always knows why it won't work,
Yeah.
it won't work.
Exactly.
Yeah. You have to eliminate that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit. Recently, you and Melissa were part of the 63rd virtual Miramichi Folk Song Festival. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, Susan invited us to be part of the festival, and then the C word, COVID happened. And so Susan, being the gal she is, just didn't want to see it fall apart or have the community spirit kind of dissipate in that way. So she kind of rallied up everybody and asked them if they would contribute via video or something.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody's like, yeah, let's do it, and so we did it, like Melissa and I did it. So I got Melissa to do a fiddle song, and I sang a tune about the area that I wrote, and it was great. It was nice to be a part of it. And Susan Butler, how do you say no to Susan Butler? She's amazing.
Yeah, you don't say no to Susan Butler.
Yeah, she's great. No, she's so supportive too with us. She's always there to help us out or invites us to the music festivals and stuff. So yeah, we're appreciative. So it was nice to be a part of that. And I think it went well. Like it seemed like all the videos got watched and people enjoyed having the music, even if it was virtual or
exactly.
Everybody would rather be there in a live setting, but
it
was just the circumstances we were in. I'm sure next year we'll be doing it.
Yeah,
like we talked. Like your series too. I'm sure we'll be able to do that next year.
Well, it's once you just have to be hopeful that things will come around and that we'll get a handle on this. And
well, I think we're lucky in this part of the world. I'm feeling pretty blessed to be here. I think I just took the plane at the right time.
You moved at the right time, my friend.
Yeah, it feels good, to have that space and the safety of this region. Everybody's so supportive of each other that we're following the rules and there's no silliness.
Exactly.
No matter what your personal constitution is about these things, everybody wants the betterment of the community. So we're all exercising all the things that are suggested, and it's working. It is working.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Country Music Association of Ontario.
Yes.
You're nominated for Producer of the Year.
Yep. This will be my last time.
Okay, let's talk about it. You explain that.
Yeah, so basically you have to be from the province to be nominated. Mm-hmm. Like you have to be a resident or been born there. You can be in Nashville and get nominated if you were born in Ontario and raised there.
Sure.
I wasn't. I was born and raised here.
That's right.
So this year kind of marks my last year as being eligible. And I've won Producer of the Year every year except for 2 since the beginning of that.
Really?
Since it started. Yeah.
Nice.
So this will be my last year again being as a nomination. So I'd love to walk away with it for the last time, but you can't, the politics and that stuff is so strange, as we all know.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like we did a fan vote here. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
I kind of just on my Facebook and my socials, I just kind of went, hey, if you guys want to vote, if anybody wants to vote, because it's fun to vote for musicians and artists that you like. And everybody hopped on, and I mean, it just went viral. Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
So by the time it was all over, like we won the fan vote by, it's not even a contest.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing was like our community is so supportive. That's what I love. Like you got to love that when you have kids here and there's people wanting to support you. But we actually accumulated so many votes just for myself in that category.
Yeah.
They equated to more than all the other categories combined.
Unreal.
So like even the male artist of the year only had maybe 670 combined votes.
Yeah.
And we managed to get like 1,100 or 1,200 votes ourselves,
Yeah.
just for me,
That's
for that
amazing.
category. So it's funny, like you read the producer category and it's just like 1,300 votes, and all the other ones are like 500, 600.
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, that's just a simple post. I know I shared it. A bunch of
Yeah.
people shared it, and it just rolled
Support,
from
right?
there.
It's like even Hockeyville. Like look what we
Exactly.
did there. It's amazing.
That I'm telling you, that was just an absolutely amazing experience.
I know.
And
Heartwarming, right? Like
It is.
It made you so proud to be from here. It's
Yeah.
like I was in tears. I was in Ontario. My heart was pounding. I was
Yeah.
sweating watching this thing, and I mean, I yelled and emotion just like all over the place.
did it? The moment that Gary Bettman made that announcement, and then they cut away from his face, but went to the card where he flipped the card.
Yeah.
And it said Renews.
Yeah.
Did that just seem like you were in a fog or
It
something?
does, yeah.
It's just
surreal.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. But you're hoping, but I think we all realize, well, we're from such a small place that it can't possibly happen. You
Yeah.
know? It's
Yeah.
just like we just can't outvote a province that has millions of people.
Yeah.
You know? We just can't. But we did.
Yeah.
That's just through heart. It's funny. A friend of ours, Ashley Hallahan, was telling me that there was a person in Blackville that went into the school to vote. He's never had an email account, and so they helped him set up an email account so he could vote. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's that's one. And did you were you around for the game?
No, I was on tour. I think
Okay.
I was out with Dean Brody and Dallas Smith on that tour when that
Okay,
happened
that's
here.
right,
I know
right.
my kids went.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was playing close, but I didn't have enough time to make I couldn't jump off the bus long enough to make the next gig. Because I think our last gig, when that was about to happen, we were here, but then we were heading out west, if I remember right.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's that. It was. I can't even spit it out here. The committee was very gracious to give myself and Tammy a couple of tickets. That was my very first NHL game, but same thing, surreal.
Yeah.
And it was weird. Like, of course, Montreal Canadiens were playing and Florida Panthers. If Montreal scored, they cheered. If Florida scored, they cheered.
Sure.
It was just
it's just a game. Like
Yeah.
they were just enjoying the event. You know, it's just such a wonderful event.
Yeah.
We did it. That's a good example of why I brought my kids here.
Yeah,
Exactly. I know there's some people you'll talk to that have been here their whole lives, and they're a little down on it. They're like, well, it's not the town it used to be, and it's this and that, and there's more of this, and I think my wife has brought it up too. She's like, honey, there's drugs everywhere in the world, and it's worse in the cities than it is here.
Yeah.
We're just so conscious of it.
Yeah.
That we see it and it just drives us crazy because we want it to be perfect,
Well, that's it. And again, it kind of goes back to it's not necessarily confrontation, but it's focusing on the positive.
Yeah.
And yes, those issues have to be addressed in our area.
Sure.
Absolutely. But at the same time, don't let that dictate
Right.
what our community is about.
Yeah, you let that take control of it and it will.
Yeah.
You just
for
take your
sure.
town back.
Yeah, exactly.
We did that way back when we were in charge of our own town.
Yeah.
And it worked well that way, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think you just got to stay on that and be positive. There's people coming in all the time, and like I've noticed that in the year I've been here, there's more people coming in from other places. It's a beautiful place to go, and it's a nice affordable place to get into. If you're coming from a place that maybe the housing market is more, then you can sell a home there and come here easily and not be too stressed about it.
Exactly.
Beautiful place to live, and then you got space. Like having a 5-acre lot in wherever is impossible.
Yeah.
And the studio I have here is on 20 acres.
Nice.
On the water and has a supercross track. If I were to try to buy that in downtown Toronto,
No.
I just don't have enough money in my wallet for that.
No, for sure. For sure. So we talked about the Country Music Association of Ontario. The Canadian Country Music Association Awards, they're coming up, fairly quickly.
Right.
I imagine they're going to, obviously it's going to be different this year.
Right.
But traditionally it's always been September-ish.
Yeah, that's right. That's September 9 to 12 area, 13, somewhere in there. It's usually the Sunday night, the televised version, the CCMAs, is done on a Sunday night in that window.
Right. Exactly.
So this year, I don't think it's going to be. I haven't actually heard for certain yet. I know there's some talk about doing some virtual show.
Right.
So it'll be not unlike what Susan did with the folk festival. It'll be people submitting videos and contributing that way.
Yeah.
Safely.
Yeah, for sure.
Social distancing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we're up for Studio of the Year this year from the Miramichi.
Well, and that's what's nice about that.
Yeah.
Putting the Miramichi on the map.
Well, it's already on the map. But it sure would be nice to do that because we're kind of, a lot of people here are country music fans.
Yes.
So it'd be nice to have a real CCMA with Miramichi written on it. I would love to have that for here. I really would.
That'd be pretty special for sure.
I hope it happens. It's happened twice before.
Yeah.
With the Ontario name on it, so hopefully it'll happen for us here.
Very nice.
Because it'd be nice to have on the shelf.
And now somebody, and it's awful. I don't know the gentleman's name, but he's every Deck Series show he's been there, and I was talking to him just here recently at a local fish and chips. And
I know the one you mean.
Yes. And so we were talking, and he said he helped you move your shed.
Oh, David, my next door neighbor.
Okay.
Yeah, David McKinsey.
All right. So he told me one time during one of the deck shows, because I'm always saying that you're 5-time guitar player of the year and a 2-time producer or studio of the year. Mm-hmm. But he says you've won way more CCMAs than that.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I don't know if have you ever seen the little trophy case?
I was at your place.
Were they up then?
Once. I don't think so.
Yeah, we're still building when you came, right?
Yeah.
There's a few, like, not to brag, but there's over 20.
Nice.
Yeah, and there's CCMAs and SOCANs and Junos and things like that. They still owe me there's a couple Junos there I gotta call and see if I can get.
Oh, really?
They're part of the team, but they usually give it to the artist or whatever. So it'd be nice to have one of those because we won Record of the Year for a couple of different artists and I produced those. It'd be nice as a producer to get one, but sometimes the artist does that and buys them for.
Nice.
The ones that I work with haven't.
Well, you might have to
nudge.
Give them a bit of a reminder. Speaking of the studio, you got started producing just by chance, I believe it was. And if I'm not mistaken, one of your first albums that you produced one for Gil Grant?
That's right, yeah. So I was a session musician at a studio called Cedar Tree, which is in Kitchener. And that's kind of where I got my big break. I started, I was just kind of like wallpaper there. I was there so often that I knew the place just as well as the engineers, like, because I was playing guitar on all those records at that time, like Jamie and Bev and, yada, yada. Yeah. And then, so there was a program back then called the Futures Program. And the owner, the two owners said, you should take this opportunity and we'll train you on the console and on all the gear. Because I had a good idea on how to operate all that stuff from the live background. I was playing in all the live bands.
Right.
So I kind of had the ideas and the ideals were all there. Yeah. It's just a different environment. So I had to learn how it's done in that environment. And so I ended up doing it. And it was like a year-long program. So I ended up becoming the assist engineer. And during that time, and it was pretty cool because I was working for a guy named Fraser Hill and Rick Hutt, arguably two of the, greatest, I think, in my opinion. So Fraser did all kinds of stuff like the Northern Pikes and Tom Cochrane and all that stuff. So I was getting to work on these records. Even an Anne Murray thing we redid the whole Anne Murray album for her Songbird show that she had.
Right.
So we actually had to take all of the music and redo it again, like remix it off the tapes as if she would like the record, but she wasn't singing because they didn't have a version of it with just the music. The only versions they had were with her singing. So so we redid all of that, and then that was cool. And then we did an anthology thing for like the millennium for Capitol Records. So got to actually hold the Beatles reels and, you know, all these famous rock bands and stuff. So I ended up becoming an audio engineer there at Cedar Tree, and I did that for quite a while. And then, of course, when you're the engineer, you end up sort of suggesting stuff like a producer would, like, hey, maybe you should try playing this. You know, that's what a producer does. It's sort of your job. It's kind of like a glorified project manager for a song.
Okay.
Go, okay, drummer, play this. You play that. Here are the people we're going to hire for this particular song. And so, so I ended up doing that. And then they were so busy at the time. They were doing like all those records we talked about.
Yeah.
And there was a gentleman named Gil Grant who had a Nashville contract and then came back to Canada. Mm-hmm. Sort of lost he didn't really lose his deal. He stepped out of the deal and moved back to Canada. Mm-hmm. And so he ended up coming to the studio, and that's when the in-house producer there was like, do you want to try it? Do you want to give it a go? And I'm like, absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to do it. And so we did. And that was a big record for Gil. Like he had Cry a Little and all, like tons of hits.
I was always trying to figure out which album that he had recorded that you produced.
Yeah.
Which hits came off because he had a very successful album in the States.
Yeah.
But then that one that you produced was very successful here in Canada.
I think we had like top five singles on that one record. Like Cry a Little, and then he did a cover of Burton Cummings' song.
Oh,
I can't remember anymore. My memory's shot.
Shoot. I had it for a second. I lost it.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's there somewhere. But yeah, so we did a whole record, and there was tons of hits that came off that. And one song that we had co-written was on hold with George Strait right up until the day they literally were putting the record together. It's the same old story. Every Nashville writer has one. It's like it got cut at the last second, and it really did because we filled out all the forms, had all the mechanical stuff in place and we thought, oh, this is it. We're gonna have a George Strait hit, you know. But then it just got bumped off. But that's how I became a record producer, and then I did that for a while, and then I did another record with a girl named Diane Chase.
Yes.
Out of that studio, and then I did the first record with Jason Blaine out of that studio, and then I kind of went on my own. I decided to build my own place just because it just economically it made more sense to have my own stuff and to do it, and the opportunity was there, you know, and it was a good time to kind of invest in myself. Yeah. And so I did. I built a little studio, like a little control room in a townhouse that we were living in Waterloo.
Wow. And
then we ended up buying a home. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, it just kind of graduated, and then I had a studio and a home, and, you know, it just kind of changed. And then throughout that time, there's been a lot of records, like, you know, like Terry Clark and Michelle Wright and Dean Brody and Aaron Lyons, Charlie Major, Jason Blaine again. You know, lots of repeat business, which is always a positive.
For sure.
You know?
And when when you say those names, it's like, you know, that was a great era. Not that right now is not a great era, but you know, for me, like the 90s and into the 2000s, that was
even late 2000s. Like Michelle's last record was only, I think we just saw things 4 years ago that was released, and Charlie still had singles 2 years ago, so they're still doing it, which is great.
It is,
and Terry's still very active. You know, it's like she's really great, and then Jason, of course, all those guys, and then man, there's tons of guys around here still now. I hope we can break somebody from here into that world. That's a new goal. I'm just really hoping I can put somebody on the CCMAs from here.
Yeah.
So
it's and just before I forget, it is Break It to Them Gently.
That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I could hear it too. I just like no. But you know, it's when you consider that you think of British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario, they're kind of the juggernauts of country music.
Yeah, I would say so.
So many. Well, they've got the population.
That's
right?
it. Yeah, and Saskatchewan's got a ton of talent too. Well, Manitoba does too. Yeah, Winnipeg's an epicenter of music. But anyway, so
it's and that's the thing. Like it's they've got the population, even though technically the majority of Canada's population is between Montreal and Toronto, but still, like the country music scene is, a lot of it out west. But there's a lot of great East Coast folks here that are doing some wonderful things.
Yeah,
and you've been able to work with a few of them since you've come back home.
I have, and I'm just scratching it. Like it's like starting all over again. Nobody knows who I am here on the East, right? So it's odd. I was telling my wife this, and some friends of mine, they're like, I've never won an East Coast Music Award. I've never even been nominated for one.
Yeah.
So that's really weird. I've won all of them everywhere else nationally, but never here. So got to work on that. I got to get my presence up here. I got to introduce myself to some people, and
that's it.
But I've been working with a few, like Corey Gallant. I did his last single.
Out of PEI.
Yeah, and then Laurie LeBlanc, nice guy.
Yeah.
And I've always, he approached me about it when I was in Ontario. He was going to go to Ontario. And I said, well, I'm building a place in Miramichi if you're willing to wait. And he's like, I only live 45 minutes from Miramichi.
There you go.
So it worked out great,
Yeah.
So we just flew the guys in and did the record.
Yeah.
And same with, and then the first record I did here, I absolutely wanted to make sure it was somebody from the region, and I just didn't want to do a Dean Brody record or something right out of the gate.
Yeah.
It had to be gotta be home. So
exactly.
I found a guy named Jason Price, and he talked to me, and literally my first band was with Amy Jardine, and Johnny was the singer, Johnny Manderville.
Manderville, yeah.
So literally this guy, Johnny's wife and this guy's mother are sisters.
Well, there you go.
So it couldn't be any closer.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy.
He is.
And he's a super patient guy, really talented, actually. His voice he reminds me a lot of John Landry.
Yeah.
And so, so we did that record and we had a blast. And I showed you, at the beginning stages, what we did, just so you could hear the studio, how we doing, how is this holding up? But I knew right away, it's funny, the very first time we had all the musicians in place, got all their sounds, and they're like, yeah, sounds great. You want to try one? It's like, yeah. And it's weird because I literally stayed up, it felt like 18, 19 hours a day, just building. I was running wire and drilling holes and getting everything hooked up. And it's pretty sophisticated equipment. It's like setting up a radio station in a week. And that's what I did. I built the whole thing in a week. Tour bus dropped off all my stuff.
Yeah.
We lugged it in the studio. I had lots of friends and family that supported and helped me carry it in. And then it was bye. And then it was a week of just I'm not going to be able to pull this off.
Wow.
So I was so anxious that first day.
Yeah.
I got the Dean Brody bands in there. So, you want to make a good impression.
Yeah.
Drummer sits down and I go, what do you think? How's it sound in your cans? And he goes, yeah, sounds great. And the bass player, how's it sound? You need anything? No, sounds great. And the keyboard player, same thing. Everybody was like, sounds great.
Yeah.
Let's try one. And we literally started record and started playing the song, and nobody stopped to get anything different or anything. It was just like magic. It was just like it was been there for years. And everybody was like, that was great. Sounds great in here. They just loved it.
Good.
It has a great vibe. I love it there. It's
it's a unique spot.
It is, you know. And I knew I wanted something where people would come and just go,
yeah.
Not initially I was going to put it in town. I was thinking about the courthouse at one time. I was going to buy the courthouse, and it's beautiful. The building is beautiful, and it looks great in a brochure, you know.
Yeah.
But and it's a beautiful setting, but it's just not what I was hoping for at this stage. It's kind of the guys come in, they pull in the driveway, and it's like, you're here.
Yeah.
And it's great. They go for rides on the 4-wheelers, or they'll go to the water and hang out. It's a place to create, you know?
Well, and that's it. It's, as historical as the courthouse is, which has even made its way into one of the songs that you co-wrote with Jamie Warren. I see where it probably wouldn't have been the right fit.
Right. Initially I thought it was. I think it's just so commanding of a look, you know. I just and I showed some pictures, and when I was going to buy it, I was showing pictures to some of the artists, and they were like, wow, you know?
Yeah.
And then as I dug into it, I'm like, I don't know if I want, there's no room, there's no yard, you can see the water, but it's not really accessible. So I started looking around, and And then the realtor lady I was working with is a dear friend, Lois. We had bought a house already through her, and then I was like, I'm looking for something like this. And she said, there's a place. I'm not sure if it's the right area, but I'll take you. And we walked in, and I was like, immediately I was cutting out the walls and adding and subtracting, and I talked to my wife about it, and she goes, yeah, this is really cool. And it's just a beautiful spot. Like, it's just a nice
it is
land and everything. It's been kept, and it's got so much history. There's a garage with the history of the family on it, like,
oh really,
we planted this in this year, and
interesting,
this guy got drunk and fell over. And there's wonderful stories. There's even the heights of the kids on the barn that grew up there. So I don't know, it feels good. It's just got a great vibe.
I think you made the right choice.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And I love going there. Like, I drive in and I walk in and I start working, and it's like, it's so quiet.
And you need that serenity, I guess, to
you do
to do that kind of work.
Yeah, if you're going to be creative, I think you got to lock into that creative mode.
Yeah.
And it's not a switch. Like, it's funny.
Exactly.
I talked to my mother-in-law about it, who's an author, Donna Diebold, and like, she's found a space in her property that she bought that will be her spot. Like, you can't just sort of be in your living room and just go, all right, I'm going to write a fantastic song right now.
No.
I got 5 minutes. That's not how it works. You kind of got to be in the mood, and everything's got to kind of line up for it to work right. And that place helps me get there faster.
That's good.
Yeah.
No, I think you made the right decision in picking that spot for sure. So we talked about Jason Price, who I agree, great voice, great fella.
Yeah.
And Laurie LeBlanc, he's got to know him through the Rogersville Country Festival.
Yeah.
He's been kind enough to invite me to his show. He's got an annual Christmas show in Moncton, and I can't think of the name right now, but it's like a mixture of English and French.
Yeah.
But it's a great production, just incredible production.
Good.
And it's a great spot.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything kind of midway.
No.
He's very committed.
He is.
He's a hard worker.
He is.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But in addition to music, well, it's not all music for Jason Berry.
Not all the time.
You've been busy on the TV side too.
Yeah. I mixed a lot of stuff. Like, I'm an audio engineer too,
sure.
right? So and I love it. It's kind of like my break from my music brain to get into the technical side of, all this file formats and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
So I do a lot of stuff for Disney and, Teletoon and YTV and
nice
stuff like that. Like all the networks, WTV, and so it could be a promo, could be what we call long format, like a whole show. You mix the whole show.
Yeah.
You're adding in the music and the dialogue, fixing the dialogue and sound effects and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a really fun job. You just kind of sit there with a coffee and go, what am I missing?
And even the previous show for Courtney and Dave on HGTV, Masters of Flip.
Yeah,
yes.
I did that. Yeah. 8 years I've been working on that show.
Is that right? It's been going that long?
A long time, yeah. It started off under a different name, and I can't even remember anymore. The Wilsons, maybe, or something like that. It was literally started as that and then turned into this serious home renovation show in Nashville.
Yeah.
So, and they've done well with it. So,
yeah.
And they're still going. The brand's still going.
Yeah,
I'm just not doing it this year, but
they've got another show. But before they had that real estate show, I remember them on CMT for some reason.
Sure, yeah. Courtney was Courtney Kale.
Okay.
That was her artist name. So she was a signed artist.
Okay.
She had singles on the radio, and she was actually on soap operas too. Like, you would see her on, I think, Days of Our Lives or something.
Really?
She made an appearance on there. She was an actress on that.
Okay.
And Dave was a signed writer. So he was literally a publishing writer. Like, that was his gig. He wrote songs for other people.
Nice.
And he was an artist too, but great writer.
Yeah.
Great guy, actually. He's funny guy.
Yeah. You can tell there's that comedic side to whatever they're doing. So it seems like that whenever he's whenever they're trying to calculate the final price, whether they made a profit or not, he's always pulling her leg. Or
That's
something
it.
like that.
Yeah. And then the guitar thing. So I've been helping. I got a signature series model guitar coming out.
That's right.
Which is kind of cool. So a company from Canada approached me to build a guitar like mine.
Okay.
With their name on it.
Nice.
And I said, yeah, because I've been offered by the bigger companies, but they're all American companies or
Gotcha.
overseas.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge Canada guy. I like to wave my flag.
Yeah.
So yeah, when they approached me, I was like, yeah, let's do it. But let's do it in a way that it's not a stupid expensive. Let's try to make it so kids can play it and go somewhere with it. So we've been working on what areas, for the lower end version of it, so people can actually get it. And then there's a high end version for the guys that are studio guys and serious players. There's a real version like my guitar.
Nice.
And so it has B benders and all this stuff in it, and it's real unique to, especially a country music instrument, because the benders you hear that more often in country music. So
okay,
it's a unique guitar. It's you can't buy them in a music store. There's rarely a guitar that has that unit built into it.
I see.
It's very specific. I'm excited. And so I saw a little post the other day. They had a bunch of bodies and a bunch of necks. They were starting to put it together. And
nice.
So yeah, it was a process to kind of pick how it was going to look. And I think we got a cool look. It's a natural looking guitar. And
nice.
It's not like, if you want, it can come in a really cool electric blue color, but for the most part, it's a natural guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's one called the Studio, and then there's one called Stage.
Okay.
So it's self-explanatory.
Sure.
The Studio one's a little fancier, and then the Stage model is for touring guys.
Okay.
So, and it's great.
Nice.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And it's got my name on it. I had to sign my name. It's so hard. You ever had to digitally sign your name?
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks like I could have did it with my left hand. It would have came out nicer. So I must have did it 100 times. It's like, oh, that's close enough. That's good. It's legible. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool. And earlier this summer, you jumped on a plane and did a show for the Times, I guess. Eh?
Yeah, it was very strange. The drive-in show, and it was the first one in Ontario, and it was with Dean Brody. And I think Andrew Hyatt opened for us. He's a great artist from the West Side, but he's actually his producer's from the West Side, but he's originally from Northern Ontario. Nice guy. And so anyway, yeah, I flew in, and that was weird. It was a weird experience. So I flew in, and mask and social distancing, and they were pretty good. Everybody followed the rules. There was a couple of people where I'm like, whoa, stay back, and then of course coming back was my biggest worry, because you get the paranoia, I love this place so much, I don't want to hurt it, so I was worried that I was going to come back and maybe be contaminated or whatever, so I just locked myself in my studio for the 14 days. And I suffered without seeing my kids and stuff, but it's for the better good. It's for everybody at that point, so that was weird. And I didn't have to. When I flew in, they were like, oh yeah, you were working, so you just have to self-monitor. I was shocked. I was like, no, I'm going to
go the extra mile.
Yeah, I'm going to go. You gotta.
Yeah.
So anyway, and it worked out. No one's sick, and we're all good. And
good.
So, but it was a weird show, because there's nothing but cars parked in front. And you've been to one here, right? Then we've had some locally. So it still feels great to plug in a guitar and have it rocking in your head. It's just weird not to have a PA. They learned from an American artist that if they had a PA out front, that people would just rush to the stage.
Okay.
And it turned into quite a fiasco. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it turned into a bit of a social media beating for that artist.
Yeah.
And it hurt him, So they decided last minute, instead of having a PA system where people could leave their vehicle and come up to the stage, they only piped it in an FM transmitter. So only that particular number, whatever number they picked, 99.3, then it would come through their car. So it kept people at their cars, because once they drifted away from the car, you couldn't hear the music.
Exactly.
All you heard were drums and, maybe an acoustic, because everybody's using the type of gear that keeps the stage quiet.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
But it worked really well. Everybody stayed by their cars.
So you had, all the players had monitors,
right?
And you could hear everything.
Yeah, it's kind of, we have what's called in-ear monitors, and I don't know if you ever noticed the singers. They have these things that looks like hearing aids.
Yeah,
and they go right in and they isolate. It's like that. It's literally plugs everything out,
So is that what happened at that event? Is that normal at other events for your, like, on stage?
For sure. Yeah. Like at this level, like it's not always on every stage. But at Dean's level, like at the level we're at, the stages are really large.
Right.
And we're able to move around. So, we could, if we had monitors, we'd have to stand in front of the monitors.
Right.
And never move. And I don't think the audience would appreciate that as much as when we're running around and having fun.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, we had to have the sound with us at all times. So that's basically what it does. And it kills that time delay, if the drummer's 30 feet away.
Exactly. Exactly.
Which isn't a bad thing for a guitar player because we're always play on top. But no, it's great. It's really cool. It's like a little pack. And you have a guy dedicated at the side of the stage and you go, I want more of the singer, less of the bass player, or I'm just not picking on anybody, just for example.
Yeah.
And so you kind of get it the way you want to hear it in your head. And then hopefully that's the way it sounds when you get to the show. There's many times when you get to the show, your mood might change, or you might have had 2 more coffees and you're hearing different, and you know what I mean? Yeah. So sometimes you get on stage and you're like, what happened to my mix? But no, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good technology. You need it.
It's interesting because, right now I'm wearing headphones because that's what I'm used to doing in radio.
Right.
But I can hear you, I can hear me, and then, then I know it's pretty
Working.
good.
Yeah.
When I announce at different places, I'll give you an example. This summer I've been filling in at the racetrack announcing, and one of the divisions is very high-pitched, and I can't hear myself.
Wow.
And what was happening was I couldn't hear myself, so I was talking louder.
Shouting, yeah.
And I could feel my voice starting to go.
Yeah.
So what I did, and I don't know what made me think of it, I put my finger over my ear, and I could hear myself in my head.
Yeah.
And that was good enough.
Yeah.
So if I could hear myself in my head,
then you'll see singers sometimes going, and you go, why are they plugging their ears? That's why.
Yeah.
Because they can't hear themselves, so they're doing that because you hear your own, the vibration of your voice. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that must have been interesting.
It was unique.
Yeah.
Unique experience, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
Because check it off the bucket list. It was the first one, so as weird as it is, we kind of made history there too, we're in the book. So that's kind of cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Looking ahead, what's on the agenda?
There's a lot on the agenda. It's full, and I'm trying to bring local things into the mix so I can, I'm hoping for that someone to make it, that's what I'm hoping for. So I'm balancing, the stuff that I've already been working on with, the famous people and so on, and trying to bring in newer people and teach them this experience and how it works. Cause it's a new thing. Like if you haven't recorded an album, it's so much different than singing live so you got to carve out time for that. You got to give those people the time to get comfortable with that environment and stuff. And I love it anyway. Like it's always been my thing. And like when Jason Blaine first started, it was that he had no idea how to sing on one of those microphones, and it's a learning curve, but you got to be patient on the other end as a producer, to let them grow naturally, So I'm trying to do that now with some local artists, and I'm working with quite a few, and it's great, actually. Like the talent, like you said, the talent here is great. It's so raw and natural. It's great.
And it's interesting that I'm so happy that you got a chance to work with Jason Price, Laurie LeBlanc, because what I've been trying to do over the last few years with our local East Coast show and local show, for many years, it was strictly local.
Yeah.
But it seemed like such a shame that we couldn't play people from New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, or the island, or whatever, because there is so much talent in our area.
There is,
there is one young lady from Halifax. She's making a go of it in Nashville, but she was just asked to. They did it, virtually, but she was asked to perform the national anthem for the Toronto Blue Jays and Baltimore Orioles game here a few weeks ago.
Cool.
Michaela Lynn is her name. And so it's given the chance, there's so many great artists around here, and like you say, you want to see if you can take one of these artists and go to the CCMAs, and
There's a few here too, like, like there's a few that we know of already that are existing and kind of have done it, but never really broke. So, and I think it's just in that scenario, you're kind of pushed into a thing and you do what they say and then you just leave.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what we need to do with the talent we have here, because they have a unique thing. And if you know what it is, like if you can tap into it, because when you're from the area, we know our dialogue, like we know how we communicate.
Exactly.
There's a lot of things we can tap into that make us unique as art, like singers and artists and stuff. So I'm hoping, there's a couple of guys. There's Josh Norad I've been working with here, and I'd like to get my mitts on Tyler DeVoe.
Tyler DeVoe, yeah.
And Tristan, at one point we were talking about, he's a great, but
he is. Tristan Horncastle.
Yeah, he's great. There's a few people around that are kind of in the scene, but not all the way in.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'd like to kick that door open if I could for them. And then there's a lot of talent. Like the Corey Gallant guy's really good. He sounds like Tim McGraw to me, so it's more of that countryside that I like. You know,
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
So the Tim McGraw meets what's the big guy? Luke
Holmes.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of talent. There's a couple in PEI that I'm working with. They're great, and it just happened out of the blue. I Music PEI asked me to produce a couple of tracks for some of their contests that they were doing. So they had 4 kind of famous producers from all over Canada working with different acts. And so I got paired up with these 2, and it was amazing. And it turned out great. So now we carried on that relationship ever since. It's like, hey, you want to do something together after this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. So now that's where we're at with those guys. And yeah, it's kind of growing. It's growing fast. And then I'm still working like with the Singing Soldiers and stuff. We're trying to get something together for them guys. And like I said, Wendell's got 10 songs. There's like 30 songs they're waiting. And then, and then there's people coming in a couple times a week. It's tough with the COVID thing.
It is.
To get comfortable again. Like even for myself, I'm cautious, because I don't want to get sick and I don't want to get anybody else sick.
Yeah.
And I have children, right? So you kind of go,
exactly.
gotta bite the bullet and just be safe about it. So cleaning the studio every time it's a lot of work because it's a big place. So I try to keep people within that 2-room
thing.
But some people are like, neat place. And then down the spiral stairs, and they're in the then that area, and then upstairs. And so you end up cleaning it all again, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
We'll get to the end of this, and I'm glad I'm here. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah. It's, we have to be proud of everything that's been happening here.
Yeah.
Not only did we flatten the curve, we pretty well smashed it into the ground. So, it's,
dug a hole for the curve.
Exactly. Yeah. So hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah.
And
I hope so. We'll see. Anyway, enough about COVID.
For sure. Well, this has been great. Thank you. We've been trying to get this. You've been busy, and I've been trying to get things ready so I can actually do this. And
this is fun.
It's been great to have you on here, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
For sure.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Jason Berry, thanks a lot.
John, thanks.